Hello and welcome to this introduction to Hawaiian Huna video. My name is Marilyn Devonish. I'm the founder of transformationstm.com, and I specialise in working with both individuals and organisations about transforming and changing and accelerating mindset. So working with individuals around limiting beliefs, letting go of negative emotions, accelerating their ability to learn and think and be more creative. And with organisations, it's going in and designing and delivering leadership development training and personal development training. And what I'm going to share with you today is one of the modalities that absolutely blew me away when I first came across it. And I could think of nothing other than to say it was almost like magic. So we're going to be looking, as I said, at Hawaiian Huna. So we're going to look at what is Hawaiian Huna. We're going to have an overview of the origins and the lineage that comes with that. I'm also going to share with you a little bit about why Huna and what was that thing that blew me away and my first experience of Huna Magic. We're also going to have a quick look at some of the ancient symbols and the elementals that Huna works with. Also going to show you how you can use Huna in client practice. And at the end of this video, I'm going to take you through some exercises that you can start using in your own life. So there is something called heart breathing. We're going to go through how to do that. There's something called Oponopono, or the forgiveness process. We'll do an overview of that as well. And also very quickly look at some of the assumptions of Huna Magic. So that's really what I've got in store for you today. Starting off then, what is Huna? Well, Huna is an ancient Hawaiian physical and emotional healing practice. And the word itself means concealed or hidden knowledge, because Huna was hidden for many, many years, and we'll talk about that in a few moments and the reasons for that. Huna is also a way of empowering yourself and others by releasing energetic blocks, releasing old connections and ties to the past. And that's really where something like Oponopono comes in. And Huna works with what they call mana, or life force energy. It also works with the elements, and it also works with symbols. So that's what it is in a nutshell. In terms of the Huna origins and lineage, it is said to date back around about 35,000 years, and it flourished in 750 AD as a teaching and a form of personal and spiritual development, a form of healing. So, you know, with all the modalities I do today, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, EFT, DNA theta healing, all that sort of stuff, Huna was one of the original sort of personal development and spiritual healing practices. Now, in Hawaii, it was deemed illegal in 1820 because when the Hawaiians were colonized, the Westerners that came into the island didn't understand what they were doing. They didn't understand the chanting. They didn't understand the symbols. And because they didn't understand it, like many people do, if they don't understand something, oh, well, it's got to be crazy. It's got to be rubbish. And it's got to be something we don't want you using. So the people that colonized Hawaii made it illegal. And it was only legalized, believe it or not, in the early 1980s. So if I had tried to go over to Hawaii and study Huna in, 1975, there was a risk of fines and even imprisonment for doing that. But thankfully, people are now a little bit more open-minded, and they recognize and realize that it really is just an ancient way of connecting and being more connected to who you are and what's going on around you. So that's a little bit about the origins and the lineage. In terms of my first experience with Huna Magic, it was amazing. I was on an NLP course and I was very skeptical, and I was the person sat at the back with my arms folded, rolling my eyes, because I'd only gone along to improve my communication skills. I wasn't interested in all of the other crazy hypnosis and timeline therapy and Huna stuff. That was just outside my realm of thinking at that time. And the person running the training had asked for a volunteer. He said, is there anyone who's got a relationship, an issue that's been holding you back in some way, and you want to release the energy around that? So I volunteered because I was being quite facetious at the time, and I had decided the course was a load of old rubbish and I was going to get my money back. And I thought, well, the best way to justify being able to get my money back is to at least look as though I'm participating. So I volunteered and he chose me. And he said, right, can you think of maybe someone that you've got an issue with? And I said, yes, fine. So I thought of a particular family member. And this is someone I'd grown up with my entire life. And it wasn't anything they did. It was just that because they were so outgoing and so confident, they were very good at everything they did. They were the sort of person that passed their exams first time. And I was, always flailing about. I always felt as though they looked down on me. And and people, you can't see me on this video, but people say you maybe feel this big and they do a little thing with their fingers. I felt tiny. I always felt as though I was inferior when I was in their company. And so I thought, right, that's the person I'm going to focus on. So he just said to me, think about that person. And then he carried on teaching the class. And I was like, okay, well, I'm waiting. And about 10 minutes later, he said, how are you doing? And I thought, well, what do you mean, how am I doing? You haven't done anything yet. So he carried on again, teaching the class. About 10 minutes or so later, again, he turned to me and said, how are you doing? And I was thinking, well, what the hell are you talking about? You haven't done anything. And this went on for the whole sort of hour and a half segment. At the end of the segment, he came back to me again and said, okay, now check in with that family member. How are you doing? And I just went to go off into one again. You haven't done anything a lot. And then I suddenly thought, you know what? I feel a bit calmer. I actually feel better about it. And then I reasoned that was because he'd made me think about it for an hour. So really didn't give it too much thought after that. I went home from the workshop that night and there was a voicemail from this particular person. Now, you might not think that's strange. It was, because one of the issues I had with this person, they would never ring me. People say, oh, how's Marilyn doing? They'll say, well, I don't know, she never calls. So the onus was always on me to call them. And of course, if that's always the way it is, you get a bit fed up of doing that as well. So you don't call as much. And then, of course, you get bad mouth because you don't call. And it was just a vicious cycle. So I thought, well, God, they've left me a message. There must be something wrong. I'd better phone back. And I didn't have that usual feeling of dread in my stomach because it was always like, what are you doing now? Have you got a proper job yet? And la, 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 it was all the usual stuff. And, oh, here we go. So I rang them up and they just, how are you doing? Haven't heard from you for a while. And I thought, strange. What do they want? And this went on and they actually didn't want anything. They were just phoning for a catch up. Now, at the time, I was studying to be an accountant and I had taken a couple of weeks off to go and do this NLP practitioner training. And of course, because this person's a lawyer, I thought, well, I'm not going to tell them I'm off studying hypnosis. I keep my mouth shut. And they just said, where have you been? Been out this week. And I said, oh, I've been on a course. Now, you would think they would assume I meant an accountancy course, but oh no, they said, what course? Oh, just personal development. What kind of personal development? And in the end, I thought, well, I don't want to lie. I'm just going to be upfront. And I said, well, I'm doing a course on NLP and hypnosis and something called timeline therapy. And at the time, this person was pregnant with their twins. The first thing they said to me, because I was expecting them to lay into me, why are you jeopardizing your accountancy studies by going off to study hypnosis? I thought, oh, here we go. The first thing they said to me was, oh, do you think hypnosis will help with my morning sickness? And I was like, gee whiz, this is a different person. And we had the most amazing conversation about hypnosis and the things that I was learning and the mind-body connection. And when I went to see them the following week, I took my pendulum with me because we were learning about, dowsing and that sort of thing. And they're lying down and I'm doing the pendulum above their pregnancy bump. Is it going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? And the next day, after that telephone call, I went into class and the only logical reason I could come up with, the only way I could logically explain this was that this family member must have been abducted by aliens, because I could not explain how there had been such a dramatic shift and change and resolution in our relationship, because that was a lifelong relationship. That's a relationship which at that point had been constant for 32 years. And in the space of a couple of hours, they had completely changed. And that was the only way I could describe it. So that was my first experience of Huna Magic. And that's when I started thinking, my goodness, there is something in this, because I really can't explain what happened there. And that was back in October 2000. So that was really how it all started for me. And a little bit about me for people who haven't come across me before, if we've never met. basically, I had a very traditional background. So I did a business studies degree. I did a postgraduate marketing diploma with the Chartered Institute of Marketing. As I said, I was an aspiring accountant, but I was very quiet, very shy, lacking in confidence, very low in self-esteem. And the reason I ended up on that NLP training that I've just told you about is because somebody had said it's really good at improving your communication skills. That's the only reason I went along. There were no other grand plans. I didn't plan to become a practitioner and master practitioner and a trainer of NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy. That was not in the plan. However, I was so blown away by the amount that I changed and transformed. It's like, I've got to learn more about this stuff. And that's where it started. So over the years have added many other modalities, obviously the Huna that we're talking about today, and things like EFT and DNA theta healing and emotrance, energetic NLP, access consciousness. Started off years ago with Reiki, things like archetypal profiling. So became intrigued by this stuff and wanted then to learn more about it. I also teach photo reading, and I love the business side as well. So for the past 10 or so years, I've been a Prince 2 project manager and a management consultant, as I said earlier on, going into organizations, running change management programs, designing and delivering leadership development trainings. In terms of what my clients call me, some of them call me, this was made by a friend of mine who had seen all the stuff about transformation on Facebook. People call me the transformation lady because they know they can talk to me, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes, and some aspect of their life, the thing they were struggling with, is completely changed and transformed. So that's one of the things I'm really known for. I'm also some people call me the mindset magician. Some of my clients call me Little Miss Magic. Others call me the mind mechanic. And it's really, for me, it's that whole thing about, okay, what's going on with regards to your mindset that might be stopping and blocking and holding you back. And the first book that I co-authored with Anthony Robbins and Wayne Dyer and Brian Tracy and many others is around transformation. So how can you transform where you are to start living more of the life you want to live? So that's a little bit about me. I also write for a number of newspapers, magazines, journals, and have been doing that also for over 10 years. So anything about emotional health and well-being, anything about mindset, that's what I'll be commissioned to write, pieces and articles on and work with, magazine clients and that sort of thing. So coming on then to the Huna itself, and there is a little saying in Huna. When I first went over to Hawaii to study, they said, think not that all wisdom is in your school. And what they mean by that is, don't think that the thing you've got is everything. There is a big, wide world out there. And what they were sharing with us in terms of the Huna was another aspect, another take, but it didn't have to be the be all and end all. So as I'm sharing what I'm sharing with you today, you're going to notice lots of correspondences. You're going to have, your own thoughts and ideas. Some of the things I say will resonate. Some of them will not. And it, as I said, it doesn't have to be the be all and the end all. This is just another facet. There is a lot of wisdom and a lot of information out there. And that's one of the things I loved about Huna. It wasn't saying this is right and it's all me, me, me and us, us, us. It was like, there is a big world out there. And this is just another piece in that sort of magical sort of jigsaw puzzle, if you like. And by the same token, Huna very much teaches about the correspondences. So rather than looking for differences and separations, it's about inclusion, and it's about showing how everything is connected and everything is in flow. So in Huna, we talk about, in terms of the energy, we talk about mana. And they say that mana is a life force energy. It's almost like an invisible magnetic fluid, and it connects everything and everyone that we come into contact with. And the ancient Hawaiians believe the people that practice Huna and what you call the kahunas, they believe that the more mana you have in your body, the more mana you have in your system, the more you're able to protect your body from disease, the more empowered you are, both personally empowered and also empowered then to work with and empower others. So, you've got things like Tai Chi, it works with Chi. Qigong works with Ki energy. So it's just about saying these might be almost talking about the same thing, just using different language, different approaches, different perspectives. So it's not about separation. So as I said, you're probably going to see correspondences to things that you're already working with as we go through this very quick sort of introduction. In terms of why Huna and why I choose to use it and why I've been using it now for the past 13 years at this point, it allowed me to work even more quickly with my clients. And it was a really effective and powerful way to do that. And I'm going to share some client case studies with you later on. It's also deceptively simple. And when you see the elements and when you see the symbols, you think, is that it? But what I found is it unlocks energy. It starts clearing out beliefs without the story. And the thing I loved most about it, I can use it remotely. So as long as I've got permission from my clients, they can be off doing whatever it is they're doing. They've got no idea what I'm doing, although they have. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. But they can be off doing what they're doing. And with their permission, I can be doing remote Huna work and clearing stuff for them. And there is no effort on their part because they might be eating, sleeping, working. It doesn't matter. But the thing that really started to surprise me, clients wouldn't know what I was doing. And I would do a Huna session with someone. They'd turn up for their next session. I had one client, I opened the door and she says, "What did you do last Wednesday?" She said, "You did some Huna, didn't you?" And I went, "What?" And I got my diary and I thought, actually, yeah, that was the day I was working at home. So I just decided to work with a few of my clients. And again, they had no idea what I was doing. I said, "Well, actually, yes, I did. Why do you ask?" And she said, "Oh, I felt it." By the same token, I have people turn up and go, "You didn't do any Huna last week, did you?" And I'd be like, "Well, actually, no, I was really busy. I was out running courses. I was coaching clients. I was doing breakthrough sessions. I was speaking at events, whatever else I was doing." And again, I'd say, "Why do you ask?" And they say, "Well, I didn't feel it. And I didn't get a sense that anything was going on." So even though it's remote and even though my clients have got no idea what I'm up to, those who are particularly sensitive to energy will know when I've done something. They will feel stuff clearing. And for me, that's a beautiful way to work. In addition to all of the more mind-based stuff like NLP, I love being able to work on a different level with people as well. So that's, some of the reasons why I use Huna. In terms of the Huna, what they call the elementals, it's working with the elements. And any of you have ever been to Hawaii, you know how beautiful the country is. You almost feel the energy enveloping you as you arrive. And the kahunas are very much about being connected to the earth, being connected to the elements, and looking after and respecting the earth. And so they work with the elementals, and the Huna symbols are also designed around each of the elements. So you've got the earth element, or the Hunua, and that's about stability, that's about grounding. You've got the water element, which is about contraction and nurturing. You've got the fire element, the ahi, which is about expansion and passion and really kind of shaking things up. You've got the air element, or the ha, which is about movement, which is about flow. And you've got the space, which is a really important element in Huna, and that's called the eo. And without the space, there's no room for movement. So the eo is central to everything. So those are the elementals in a nutshell. In terms of the symbols, there are 36 symbols, and a little bit like the tarot. And I'm currently, going back to my roots. I probably studied tarot now about 15 years ago, and I'm currently becoming an angel card reader with Doreen Virtue. So, connected again with the tarot cards and the angel cards and doing readings for people and all that sort of stuff. So in terms of the symbols and in terms of Huna as a lineage, it's a little bit like tarot, where the knowledge had to be hidden and concealed. So some of that knowledge was hidden in the symbols, much like there is a lot going on if you look at a tarot card, and there's a lot of symbology in the cards. A lot of it was hidden in the chants. So when you hear traditional Hawaiian chanting, not only does it sound good and is it a nice rhythm, there is a story being told. There is information being transmitted and passed through the generations, through those chants. And they also hid a lot of the information in the dancing. So when you see the Hawaiian dancing, the real traditional Hawaiian dancing, again, it's telling a story, because the Hawaiians then had to be very clever and discreet in the way they passed down the lineage once Huna had been made illegal. And so there are 36 of these symbols. They've been translated. The colours were channeled as opposed to being part of the original symbols. And I've seen the original scripts and scrolls for Huna. So it's all pretty much in black and white, almost like pencil drawings, if you like. So the colours were channeled to help bring them to life more. And some of the symbols are really dramatic. One of my favourite ones that I always often start a client session with is, thunder comes down and strikes from the heavens and shakes the earth. And it's like very dramatic. And if a client's got stuck energy, that's the one I'll start with. Might then move to something like Uli, and kind of bringing down a sense of calmness and righting wrongs that have been going on in people's lives. Also, there's a symbol that I use a lot, which is about, and this one is to open the mouths or to reveal secrets. So if clients are stuck, if they can't get a sense consciously of what's going on for them, we'll do this symbol and it will start to open them up. And again, it's very rare. I mean, all the time I've been doing Huna, I can't think of any clients particularly I've shown the symbols to. I will set the symbols before a client arrives. If we're doing an energy process, or let's say I'm doing something like access bars even, while the client is lying down on the table, we'll do some energy work, maybe do some chakra work as well. And in terms of the symbols, the way they're drawn is in midair. And I'm going to draw a symbol, and it's not so much about the drawing, you draw it on the breath. So for me to draw a symbol, this is what it would sound like, even though you can't see. And even if you could see what I'm doing, you'd still be going, what's she doing? So this is what it sounds like to draw a couple of the Huna symbols. And I've had clients sat in a photo reading training with their eyes closed. They know nothing about Huna. I'll do a symbol behind their back or above their head. And when we do a debrief, they say, oh my God, when you were behind me, I felt really hot. And then I suddenly felt like this rush of water. And what they don't know is I did a fire symbol behind them and a water symbol above their head. And for people who have and even if you practice Huna, listening to what you just heard, you have no idea what those symbols were. Even I don't, if somebody else is doing it and I've just got my eyes closed. Yet people will feel the element that was transmitted to them, and they actually feel also sometimes the element itself and the message of that. So it's really powerful, and in some respects unexplainable stuff, but it's amazing. So that's a little bit about the symbols and how they kind of fit into the Huna process. Also, when you work with Huna, you get... it's kind of, I say assigned, but it's almost like your guides will choose you. You get initiated into some Huna guides, and those are called the Avaiku. And the Avaiku are what I use to carry out remote energy work. You might get one Avaiku, you might get 10. I personally have got 4, and I won't say anything more about them because I like to keep those kind of private and that sort of stuff. But you get initiated with them, you choose them. And the more you study Huna, the more you work with your guides, the more powerful that is. So what I want to share with you is just an example of what I mean by working with clients remotely, using the symbols and working with the Avaiku. And a friend had phoned me up. Her relationship had broken up. She'd been feeling suicidal that particular night. She phoned up and said, I'm going to kill myself, and I just wanted to talk to you and say goodbye. And I said, that's fine. Could you hold off killing yourself until tomorrow? And, she was drunk. She'd been drinking. She was crying. And I said, look, what I'll do is I'll do some energy work with you tonight, if that's okay. She said, yes, that's fine. It was quite late at night, probably it's about 11 p.m. So I thought, right, I'll do that tonight, just finish off what I'm doing. So I went upstairs, and I have to admit, I fell asleep. So I woke up sort of bolt upright at about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like, oh my God, I forgot. And I thought, okay, let's get connected to her. Let's reconfirm the permission, with her higher self. Started off the process, sent her some symbols, and then I kind of connected with the Avaiku, got that process started, and I left them to carry on with the process while I went back to sleep. The next morning, I came downstairs, there was an email from this person saying, apologise for tonight, feeling really embarrassed, sorry about that, I'm still alive. And then she said, you know what? She said, This is the part where you tell me that you didn't do anything. But last night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I suddenly felt really peaceful. I felt really calm. I felt really grounded. I felt really centered. And I had the best night's sleep I've had in weeks. And that is where the hairs on the back of my neck stood up and I could almost hear the Twilight Zone music playing, because it was like, oh my God. And then I relayed to her what had happened with me falling asleep, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, starting the remote process and sending the Avaiku over. And what I asked the Avaiku to do is use the symbols and send her a sense of peace and calm and gratitude and healing. And that is exactly what she felt at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that for me was one of those, you know what? Much as I kind of play around with this stuff and much as I'm sort of, well, I'm not really sure, that was one of those defining moments which made me go, there is something in this. And that was probably, gosh, about 10 years ago now. So I was really only just getting started with Huna, and I was thinking, wow, if it works in this way and I'm only dabbling with it, imagine what will happen when I start using it more seriously. And that's when I thought, right, this is it. This is really great stuff. And I started then to incorporate it into my coaching sessions, to incorporate it into my breakthrough sessions, and also to incorporate at least setting up the symbols when I run a training course. So that's just an example of how you can use it remotely. Now, one of the things that Huna is most known for is something called Ho'oponopono, or the forgiveness process. And it's broken down into a couple of stages. So just to give you a sense of what that phrase means, Ho'o is to make. Pono means to make right. So if somebody is pono with you in Huna terms, it's all good. It's all right. We're cool. The second pono means to make right times two. So you make things right with yourself and you make things right with the other person. And what you're also doing in this process is what we call cutting the arca connection, so the energetic connections, because the Hawaiians believe that you have an energetic connection with everything and everyone that you come into. And as I mentioned that previously. And it's also that thing about, oftentimes people will carry energy, they will carry sadness, they will carry guilt, they will carry anger, they will carry guilt, all sorts of things. And a lot of that comes from not being able to forgive and not being able to move on. And I often say to my clients, that's fine, I totally get. It's not about having people get away with things, but if you're carrying that kind of guilt, if you're carrying all that stuff around you, not forgiving, the person who's mainly being impacted by that is the person who's carrying the guilt. And I often say not to forgive is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to feel sick. It's like, no, you're the one who's carrying it. It affects you, it affects your body, it affects your mind, and it affects your neurology. So one of the things that is kind of central to the whole Oponopono process is about releasing all of that so you can be whole and complete, and you're not being pulled down and dragged down and held back by stuff from the past. And also, just to put this into context, now the forgiveness process was really popularized by Joe Vitale, who starred in the movie The Secret, which is great. The more people know about it, the better. And people often say, oh, yes, I know Huna, it's Ho'oponopono. And I'm like, well, actually, it's the other way round. And this is a copy of my Huna Level 1 workbook. The contents page goes on over the page, and I've circled Ho'oponopono. So if you think of Huna as a massive book, rather than Ho'oponopono being the book, it is just a couple of pages from the massive book of Huna. That's the best way I can describe it, because people often say, what's the relationship between the forgiveness process and Huna? So that's the relationship in a nutshell. The very basic version of Ho'oponopono, which I see float around on it. I mean, I even saw a copy of it yesterday on Facebook. A friend of mine posted it. It's, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And that can be used as a really nice little mantra, almost like a little daily prayer, something that you would either say to someone or you would do that process energetically. So that's the really basic, easy process that anybody can kind of take on board and start using it right this minute. The more advanced version of Huna is about working with those arca connections or cords. It's about cutting those energetic connections, and it's about reclaiming your energy with a sense of love and forgiveness. And the way that that's done in practice when I'm working with my clients. We will construct in their mind's eye a metaphorical stage. We are inviting onto that stage everyone that they've come into connection with, everyone that's relevant in whatever's going on for them. And then I'm taking them through a process of cutting the old energetic ties and connections and reclaiming their energy and doing that mutual forgiveness process. And I've had clients work with this. Sometimes people are being bullied at work. I've had clients who are in toxic relationships. I've had people who've been having real serious problems with their neighbours and that sort of thing. And oftentimes within the hour, the person they've had the issue with will get in contact, want to resolve things. Normally within 2 to 3 days, the situation is resolved. And I had somebody recently, she just came and did a 1-hour session. She walked in and said, I hate my boss, I hate my life, I hate my job, and I don't know what to do about it. And I said, well, okay, let's do some energy work. First of all, let's work on the connection with your boss. And she said, I know I'm being underpaid. I'm even being paid less than some of the juniors in our department. My boss is always picking on me. Everything I do is wrong. A couple of days later, I received a phone call and I didn't even remember who she was. And she said, oh, I came and saw you last week. And I went, oh, yeah, great. How's it going? She said, you're not going to believe what's happened. I had to phone you. And I said, okay, tell me. She said, I went into work today. My boss called me into the office and said, we've reviewed your job profile. We think you're being underpaid. We're going to offer you a pay rise. And she was stunned because it wasn't pay review time. It wasn't time for any annual increases. She hadn't asked for a job review. This was just out of the blue and she was blown away. And I remember as she was walking out the front door and she was leaving, I said, notice what you notice. You'll be amazed what starts to happen. And she gave me that look that many people give me when they're first starting out working with me. It's like, yeah, right, whatever. But I knew something would happen. I just didn't know what it was. And I had one client who was having real problems and had been having problems with his neighbour for 6 months solid. And the crux of it was the neighbour had put a rusty old car outside of my client's driveway. So when my client had visitors, they couldn't park. Yet if they parked in front of the neighbour's place, the neighbour would come out and have verbal altercations with them. And he said, this is driving me mad. It's really spoiling living here. Can we just at least work with how I feel about it? So we did this. He was in his car. He pulled over. We did a quick sort of 10-15 minute process. And this was about 12:30 in the afternoon. The next day at 11 o'clock, he called me. And he says, me and my wife I opened the front door to go out to work this morning. And I stopped and I had to call my wife. And I says, come here and look at this. She came to the front door. The rusty car that had been there for 6 months solid was gone. And he hadn't said anything to the neighbour. And his wife said at that point, bloody hell, who is this Marilyn? Is she some kind of white witch? And then when I saw him a couple of weeks later, he was sharing the story with other people on our Millionaire Mentor Day. He then said, oh my God, I didn't tell you, did I? Because he had said to me, oh, what would be ideal is if this person would just move because he's really upsetting everyone who lives on that street. A couple of weeks later, the person put their house up for sale. It is uncanny. And people who find they're being bullied or people who can't connect with people, they'll suddenly find that people are friendly, everything's in flow, they're much more open. It's incredible the stuff that happens when you play around with this process. Also in Huna, there's something called heart breathing. And as I said earlier on, Huna is about mana and the energy that flows through the body. And with the heart breathing, you breathe in through the nose, you breathe out through the mouth, and you make a ha sound. And the out breath is double the in breath. So if you breathe in for 1, you breathe out for 2. If you breathe in for 2, you breathe out for 4. If you breathe in for 3, you breathe out for 6, you get my drift. So I'm just going to show you what heart breathing sounds like. So in through the nose. And out through the mouth. And again, you might want to join in with me. So let's just do 3 heart breaths. And I want you just to notice how even in just doing the heart breath, you can almost feel yourself starting to relax. You can almost feel the body starting to get into a much more aligned state. So we're going to do 3 heart breaths. So in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out through the mouth. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. And the ha breath is an amazing way to re-energize the body, an incredible way to wake up the neurology. It's also a brilliant way of clearing out the lungs and really breathing right down into the bottom of the lungs. And it's, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling disorientated, if you need to refresh and refocus the mind, just even 30 seconds of ha breathing, powerful stuff. And if you're not used to breathing very deeply and breathing in this way, and you don't have a breathing practice, I would say do it sitting down, because many people get a head rush the first couple of times they do it. So that's the ha breathing. In terms of your energy, Huna is a brilliant way to re-energize the body. And before I stumbled into that NLP training back in the year 2000, I had a particular illness. I had an underactive thyroid, and it meant that I was tired and sleeping 10 to 15 hours a day, and I was still tired. And yes, I was working. I worked for an investment bank in the city at that point. It got to a stage I had to give up my job because I just couldn't function. After learning these techniques, and Huna was one of the techniques, you know, though, as I said, it was the NLP and hypnosis and timeline therapy as well, combined with that. After learning that stuff, I'm now fine with 3 or 4 hours sleep. And I wouldn't recommend that as a practice because not everybody's like me, and there have been times, particularly, let's say, when I was working as a Samaritan and doing night duty. I do a night duty. You start at 11 p.m, you work right through till 8 a.m. I would come home, get in the shower, jump on a train, go into London. I'd be on assignment on a consultancy job all day. And typically, 9 times out of 10 on those days, I would walk into the office and somebody or several people would say, "God, Marilyn, you're always so full of energy. How do you do it?" And they've got no idea that I've been up for 2 days and haven't slept. And as I said, I'm not advocating that as a good practice because sleep is important and many people do need their 7 or 8 hours a day. So honor your body and what is right for you. However, on those times where you're feeling overly tired, you can use the ha breathing to at least start that process. And when you combine it with the flow of energy, connecting up to the higher self, we haven't got time to talk about all that stuff today, but when you combine it with those things, it is a powerhouse combination. And from a coaching perspective, I would just ask you, if you're somebody that does suffer from tiredness, who often doesn't feel energized and alive, you might ask yourself, what do you believe about your energy? Where does your energy come from? And who or what affects your energy? Because I used to believe my energy was like a battery and it would run down and run out and get depleted. When you start changing your beliefs about the energy and then you put in a few energy practices, that was a thing that changed everything for me. And that changed in the space of a couple of weeks. And I've been like that now for the past 13 years. So it really, really does work. And it's hugely powerful stuff. And I have got a recording of some of those energy processes on an MP3 on my website. If you go to www.transmissionandcarrepairupland.com and click on the resources tab, you'll find a place where you can download some free MP3s that will take you through some of these processes. There are also some assumptions of Huna Magic, and there is a full A to Z of these. We are not going into them today, but just to give you a little idea. Now, many people are familiar with the law of attraction if they've come across things like The Secret. And in Huna, they have always believed that you will attract the energies based on your frequency or your vibration, which is why they found it so important to raise the mana and energy levels so you're operating at a higher frequency. They also believe that something called Contagion, where things in contact continue to interact after separation. And if any of you have ever looked at sort of quantum physics and that sort of stuff, you'll also see that they have found that to be true when they're splitting atoms and all that sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons why the Oponopono is so important to them, because if you're carrying the energy and the connections of people that you've been in contact with, and it's not energy that's suitable for you, it's not energy that's right for you, that's where people sort of get pulled down. And also they believe that words change and impact the neurology, which is why they've got names for all of the symbols, they've got names for all of the deities that they believe in. And they're also very careful about the way that they speak to themselves and the way that they speak to others. So Huna is not only kind of a healing thing, it's a spiritual practice. And even just taking some of those assumptions of Huna Magic can absolutely change the way you live, change the way you feel, change the way that you interact in life in general. So that's just a little taster of what some of those are. Oh yeah, prize draw. Okay, let's do it. As I left it in the presentation. I love having people change and transform their lives. And something I've come across recently, I've been running something called the Magic program with some of my clients. It's a 28-day program showing them how to bring more magic and gratitude and all sorts of wonderful things into their life. So if you would like to win a copy of either the Magic book by Rhonda Byrne or the Magic Journal, which is an amazing book, I will tell you at the end how you can do that. So, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but it has been absolutely life-changing. Everyone on profound things have happened. We had somebody who was stressed, very clearly needed a rest, needed a break, couldn't think straight. And out of the blue, she hadn't spoken to this person for ages. Out of the blue, somebody sent her a check and says, look, I recognize you're busy. I get a sense that you need some time out. Here's some money that's going to allow you to be able to take the time out you need. Now that stuff, you couldn't make this stuff up. So if you want to win a copy of the Magic book, which is what my 28-day program is based on, and the program is an email-based program. So every day for 28 days, you receive an email. We also do some live teleseminars and have a Facebook group and that sort of thing. But I will tell you in a few moments how you can win a copy of one of those. So in terms of Huna and Access consciousness, and I put Access in there because I've been combining the Huna and the Access, and it really has been packing a punch. And these are just some of the things that have been happening for clients. The list is long and endless, and I've just pulled out a couple. One of them, which was really quite amazing, I had somebody had upset her. She was crying. Really somebody had pressed their buttons within 5 minutes of kind of sending over some Huna energy, doing a bit of the Access work. She's completely fine. I had somebody who had lost a contract, and she asked for a specific amount of money per day. And she said, rather than this, you never know if you're going to be sacked the next day, she wanted timing of her choice. She said, I want an ongoing contract. The very next day, and we just did 15 minutes on the phone. The very next day, the place where she was working called her into the office and said, we want to have a word with you. And she thought, oh, here we go. I'm going to lose my contract again. They said, we have been looking at what's been going on. We're going to do some restructuring. We'd like to offer you a new position. We can only pay you £250 a day, which is the amount she said she'd like to work for per day. And she said that to me on the phone. And they said, how long would you be willing to stay for? And anyone who's been a contractor will know that you don't normally get asked that question. You're just lucky to have the contract. That was amazing. Again, somebody was stressed with a tax bill. They didn't have the money to pay that bill. We did some work around clearing the energy, clearing the fear, that sort of thing. A couple of days later, they were being chased by the Inland Revenue. A couple of days later, a cheque arrived on the doorstep from the Inland Revenue for £826 for some overpayment which related to several tax periods ago that she didn't even know anything about. So really incredible, magical stuff happens for people when they start shifting and clearing this energy. If you want to kind of see that in person for yourself, go to my website and just go on the testimonials tab. There's a lovely guy called Mark Foster who did some work with me. We did Huna and we did some Access, and he has recorded a video about his experiences. You'll probably also, it's definitely on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just search around and you will find this one. And in a nutshell, Mark, by his own admission, was a stress head. He's a share trader. So we did the work. when he came back for his follow-up session, we didn't have anything to work on because everything he wanted to resolve was gone. So he ended up chatting on the sofa, and I said, oh, that's a brilliant testimonial. And in the end, because we didn't have anything to do, I said, well, let's film it. So we did a film of it. And he's basically said, the past few weeks, I have felt unstoppable. Things I've never have done before, but always wanted to do. You know, life is happening for me and I feel fantastic. He said, I walked out of Marilyn's session feeling lighter and I don't care why. I'm very analytical and that has always held me back. If you have the opportunity to work with Marilyn, just do it. You just need an open mind. And this was somebody who very analytical because he's a trader, had no idea what Huna was, but thought, you know what, I just want to resolve this stuff. So incredible things happen for people when you play with this kind of work. So just want to now talk a little bit as we bring it to a close about how you can apply Huna in your own life. Definitely use the heart breathing because that's a brilliant way to re-energize. Use the Oponopono, even if you just say the little mantra to yourself, that's powerful enough. As I said, if you don't know anything about how to do that process, go to my website. You can download a free MP3. The website name is on the screen if people are just listening to this via audio. It's www.transformationstm.com, and TransformationsTM is one word, TransformationsTM, as in trademark, transformationstm.com. Go to the resources page, you can download the 3 MP3 and that will take you through the process of cutting some of the old ties. And with reclaiming your energy with love and forgiveness, that little mantra, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. You can also use that as a way of just starting to mentally clear out some of the stuff that's holding you back. So a couple of things you can do with the information I've shared here with you today. There's also really brilliant sort of active waking meditations with regards to Huna. I'm not going to spend time talking about that today. They're on the MP3, and also the energy replenishment exercise that I use to help change and transform my energy in terms of going from sleeping 12 to 15 hours a day to sleeping 3 or 4 hours a day. That's also on the MP3 if you want to be able to take yourself through that. Now, with regards to the prize draw, if you'd like to win a copy of the Magic book or the Gratitude Journal, what I simply want you to do is just send me an email or post something on my Facebook wall and just tell me one thing you've taken away from this video that you either found useful or that you've started to apply in your own life. That's it. And the one that resonates with me, I will send you a copy of either the book or the journal. You can tell me which one you prefer. If you have any final questions about anything that we've whizzed through and touched on today, please feel free to get in touch. My email is marilyn@transformationstm.com. I've already given you the website, www.transformationstm.com. You can give me a call, however. I'm out and about a lot. So my preferred method of communication is email because I can pick that up on the go without having to waste time dialing into a voicemail and writing down messages. So drop me an email if you've got any further questions or queries. Drop me an email if you'd like to win the book or the journal. And if you want the 90-minute MP3, just go to my website and click on the free resources tab. No charge for that at all. You just need to enter a valid email address and you'll be sent a password. So thank you, first of all, for listening to this. And in terms of, I'm playing with Camtasia at the moment, so putting together a few sort of mini mind masterclass videos. Public Speaking for the Terrified, that is already up on YouTube. That's a 60-minute video, and I will do some smaller soundbite versions at some point. But tips and techniques about how I overcame my terror and fear of public speaking. So that's already created. Probably going to do an introduction to access consciousness because people will often ask what it is and what's that weird, crazy, right and wrong, good and bad, all nine pod, poc, shorts, boys and beyond clearing statement. So I'll do something around that. Also, a lot of people are saying, oh my God, I'm seeing the testimonials that you're getting where you're accurate and spot on with all these readings. What is an angel card reading? So I'll do a little video around that. There's also something really powerful called the archetypal journey or the hero's journey. So I'm also going to put a video together for that. We'll also do a little introduction to photo reading, because people are often curious about that. And no, it's not reading faces or photos. Photo reading is an accelerated reading and learning technique which allows you to get through written information more quickly and be able to remember and recall what you've read. So to photo read a book from start to finish takes about 5 minutes, and then you're going through the system to be able to remember and recall what you've read. It's also amazing for opening up your intuition, for enhancing your creativity, for improving your memory and your recall. So I'll do a little maybe intro around that, and also something around just tips and techniques for clearing out old emotional baggage, because one of the things that really holds people back is the stuff that they carry from the past, which they haven't yet been able to release. So those are a few things coming up in future videos. I just want to say thank you for joining me today, for taking the time to watch this video. I really hope that you found it useful and that you've got some information that you can take away and some processes and techniques that you can apply in your own life. And I will see you on the next recording. My name is Marilyn Devonish, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you.